Welcome in, everybody. We are live. Lester, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not crabby about that game.
No, I'm not
Like
either.
in the
I mean, the
moment,
game
right?
sucked.
Yeah,
Like the results sucked.
those
Like that
results
was,
suck. Yeah.
it was sloppy football and all that. But like, there's a lot of there's a lot of negativity out there. But I'm
There
not
is.
really sharing in that so far.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I know our guy Ken Mitchell, the WCG Bears Den dude. He has a tweet out there I saw, and he was talking about how he must not be a very good Bears fan because he's not pissed, he's not upset, he's pretty content. That's like, well, that's how I feel because and yeah, in the moment you're watching a game, you're like, come on, the Colts suck. Anthony Richardson is terrible. How are they losing to this team? But then you're like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? The Bears are not playing the best right now in all three phases at the same time, but the offense starting to click. You know, there's some nice positives to take out of this. And Caleb's a rookie doing what he's doing at this point. 3 games in, come on.
It's just so weird. They got that awful play calling on that first and goal that they come away with no points. You got the Hail Mary that they catch, but they're
Oh,
tackled at the 1. You've got you're getting off this 7-3. You're getting off the field, and Daniel Hardy jumps. Probably was drawn off by the head bob, but
oh,
like
that was terrible.
they don't call it right. So the defense comes back on. They're clearly gassed, and they give up a touchdown. You had the quick change with the strip sack, and they score another touchdown off of that. Like, there's just enough where you're like, ugh. I mean, but they lost the turnover battle.
Yep.
They lost the sack differential. They lost the explosive play. Like the secondary broke down a few times. It just had guys running wide open. Like, there was enough there that they deserve to lose the game. But
Yeah.
there's like so much like, oh man, this thing's so close. Like, you're not going to have 4th and goal from the whatever and come away, or 1st and goal from the whatever and not come away with points very often. I mean, that's just not going to happen. Boy, those play calling decisions were brutal, though.
Yeah.
I
That was my big takeaway, was how close they were to a few things hitting. Like,
Yeah.
just the timing of things are off. Like, some of the route combinations are off. We've seen this through 3 weeks, right? Wasn't just this last game. It was, Caleb throws a comeback when the receivers read something differently, or there's a post that Caleb thinks he sees and the receiver runs something different. These things will come in time, and I think it's going to be a beautiful thing when it pops.
Yeah, the things will start to tighten up here.
Yep.
Like that's I think what you have to tell yourself, and I think it'll happen. But those mistakes will lessen over time, and you'll see a more smooth operation. You hope that maybe some of the dumb things go away too, but we'll see. I mean, you can't. Part of my, we'll get into this in the show, but like part of my fear with Eberflus coming back was that, like, you're betting on him getting better because he's not good as a head coach, right? You're betting on him getting better. And so far, he's not very good at being a head coach. Like, he's not very good at being an in-game head coach. Like, the number of times that he's just blown a timeout or just done dumb, challenges, like just when they're kind of useless, and then not challenging things that you're like, hey, maybe that would be something you might want to challenge. Like, he's just not very good at the head coaching part of things.
Yeah.
And you say, well, that was somebody in the booth or whatever. Well, then who put him in the booth,
Yeah.
right? Like, what, at some point the head coach, has to take ownership of that. He's just not very good about being a head coach. Like, there's some stuff going around with some people saying, is he like the 6th best or the coordinator in the division? Because you've got, Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores are probably both better than him at being a coordinator. One's a head coach, a coordinator. One's the coordinator. You've got Matt LaFleur, obviously better than him. You've got Ben Johnson in Detroit, and then everybody says Dan Campbell is a better head coach, right? So now you've got that's 5 guys ahead of him. Yeah. And then you say, oh yeah, then Flus, defensive coordinator Flus, that's pretty good. That's bad. There's only 8. He's better than Shane Waldron.
That's terrible to think to say.
Well, am I wrong?
No, you're right. So far, we'll see how this thing, because I really think Waldron is going to come into his own. let's get to the show. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it in there.
All right, fine, fine. We don't want to blow everything in the pregame,
Right?
The YouTube exclusive, right? Like we don't put this in the show.
I know.
We don't put this on the pod.
The YouTubers love it.
We'll get going. Welcome to Bear and Balanced. I'm Jeff Berckes. On the other side of the screen, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Bears lose a tough one in Indianapolis, 21-16, but I feel like there was plenty of silver lining to talk through. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm the same way. You know, watching it live, like we talked in a pregame a little bit. Watching it live, we're like, you know, it's just frustrating, right? Because we expected so much more, but game's over. You have a chance to actually go back and look at it again. You know, look over some of the numbers. You know, think about some of the plays. You know, they just missed a few things. You're like, okay, things should be pretty close for this team. I mean, we knew there'd be struggles offensive anyway, right? Rookie quarterback, new play caller, rookie receiver, a bunch of new faces on the offense. We knew there'd be some struggles. We hoped it would come around a little quicker than this, but you know, 1-2, you know, season's far from over.
I got a couple quick hitter questions for you before we get into our categories today. Number one, explain to me what forward progress is, Lester.
Oh, well, what's happening? Like the in the grasp rule, that is not a rule anymore. You know?
Right.
Richardson was clearly fighting. He was clearly going forward. He had the ball free, trying to make a play, blown dead. And then what the hell was the thing later? You know, I mean, that was a nice play by the Colts, but come on, his progress was
stood up.
Yes.
And then Richardson and some offensive linemen come in and engage, and they push a scrum. Now in that, okay, let's take them one at a time. One, it's a huge play because Montez Sweat should have had either a strip sack. I don't think it hit the ground though. Right. So I think it was popped up in the air and Billings caught it. I don't think it hit the ground. So we're talking about an Andrew Billings interception.
Oh man.
I mean, after 1 week after I said, well, I mean, he's looking to just hit somebody. He's not looking. He's not going to catch the ball. He caught the ball. The big man caught the ball. Interception. You're talking about a career defining moment for the big man. And you took it away because of a inadvertent whistle. Like, come on, guys. Like that's crap. Absolute crap. And then the second one, he stood up. It stopped. It is stalemate. And then you make it it's not rugby. It's not rugby. What are we doing here? And my question to you is, as a defender, if that happens, do you just go to the ground? Like, are you just going to then take out the knees? Like, if you're the third guy in, you got to just dive at the bottom, right? Like,
yeah, that's kind of what we were always taught back in the day. Was like if you're in one of those scrums, you just got to fall. You know, make a pile. I mean, that was the thing. Was you hear the coaches yell, "Make a pile," you know, because you don't want to get pushed back for one, and they can't push you back if I fall down. So make a pile. Hopefully one of the guys come over the top can make a play. But yeah, I didn't understand what the whole scrum thing was even happening, because someone should have went low and just, you know, ended that thing.
You know who's really good at that is the Bears offensive line. They're really good about being on the ground. Maybe they should teach the defensive linemen how to do that if they get in that scrum situation again.
I had a feeling that was coming. Yeah, that was
oh, come on. That was funny.
So I was talking to a buddy earlier today, and he's like, is that picture real? That's floating around the internet, the picture of all the Bears linemen on the ground. Because, you know, there's so much BS out there, right?
Sure.
Fake quotes, fake pictures. And I'm like, yeah, watch the film and you see it happen, and they're all on the floor. And it's like, what are they even doing there? And yeah, I understand the play wasn't the best play. We're talking about, of course, the speed option. You know, the play wasn't the best play call based on the look they got. But if it was executed, if someone picked up a block, maybe he had a chance to do something, but no one blocked anything. It was just, you know, it was comical.
I actually think that play was dead either way. Like, I think the numbers were not on their side.
The numbers were, yeah.
That was the next thing I wanted to talk to you. That 4-play sequence. I don't have it in front of me, but the play calling decisions, each one of those were putting the Bears offensive players in a bad position, right? You had number 11, I don't know, what is he? Wide receiver. I guess he's the wide receiver 4 at this point. He's a small guy, and he was asked on that play to block a defensive end who buries him into the running back to make the tackle. Like that was essentially just used him as a projectile to make the tackle. that was one of the plays, was that you were counting on number 11 to make a block on a defensive end. Who he's what, 160 pounds, 170 pounds. I mean, the guy, he's a small guy. Like, you don't do that. I don't want Rome making that block, right?
No
like,
way.
like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. You had a speed option, which is a high school play. Let's just call it what it is. And this is not one. You didn't have the numbers, but you don't have Lamar Jackson. You don't have Justin Fields, for God's sakes. Right?
Yeah.
You don't have, like, Caleb Williams is he's a plus athlete. He is not this like guy that you trust him to make three guys miss and get into the end zone with on a run play. Then you had a direct. I'm going out of order. I'm just as I remember them. You had a direct snap to Khalil Herbert. My guy, Khalil Herbert.
Your guy, yeah.
But like, don't love a direct snap, right? Direct snap, it kind of you're telling them what you're doing. They're not going to respect the pass. Khalil Herbert's not going to do a pop pass, I don't think. So they're expecting they're going to plug the middle. And then you had another shotgun handoff. I believe those are the 4 plays. Again, out of order. Sorry for that, but like, those are the 4 plays as I remember them. I don't like any of those.
No,
I don't like shotgun handoffs. It's being cute and then trying to do the tough thing. Like, you can be cute with your formation and then throw the ball, right? Or you can be come out with the big formation and be cute, but you can't be cute and then try to run tough. Like, that way doesn't work, right? You bring in the beef and try to get the yards the hard way, or try to be creative and get some space and get a guy one-on-one and get the little option route and let Caleb make a play that way. But all of these plays, all 4 of them should be thrown out. They were all 4 bad.
I have never been a fan of goal line shotgun plays to begin with. I mean, when you have Justin Fields, okay, I can see the point of it. Like you said, there are times to be creative. There are times to be cute. The direct snap to Herbert, okay, why not motion Caleb behind him? At least give the defense something to look at, not just a direct snap, run straight ahead, especially when the Bears O-line has not been moving anyone all day. If you want to try that and be, like you said, if you want to try and be a tough guy, get under center, bring in a 6th or 7th offensive lineman. Yeah, you're missing Kari Blasingame, your fullback, but this last game we saw them put Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett both in the backfield. Fine, put them back there. You know what? Stick Bill Murray's ass in the backfield. Have him be your fullback. You can do that. It's okay to do. He's a former defensive lineman. I'm sure he would love doing something like that. Stick Jack Sanborn in the game. Find someone that can go in there and just plow ahead and hit something that's the other color while you hand the ball off to your tailback and just get some yards. So I love I formation football, but that's just the meatball in me. So, but I want to see it on the goal line.
Yeah, if you're gonna say we're gonna run the ball, then line up and run the ball.
Yes.
But you can't like line up in this cutesy formation and then run into the teeth of the defense. It made no sense to me.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted before we get into categories, again, this is on Flus, but it was a big play in the careers of Caleb Williams and Roman Dunze. It's the first touchdown, and they connect it. I loved the little celebration where Rome was like, "Oh, nope, I'm gonna keep the ball. Nope, you want the ball? Oh, I'm gonna keep the ball." Loved it. Like, thought that was a really fun moment. If you're Matt Eberflus, the head coach, like, you have to know if you're going for 2 after that, and that has to be right. That decision needs to be made right away, and it's like, 2 fingers are up and you're getting the play call in, and it's, hey, get back to the huddle, go. He burns a timeout, Lester. What are we doing? Oh, you don't think that would have been useful down the stretch when you needed to get the ball back? Like, these timeouts are used in such a ridiculous way. And this is Eberflus. This is what we've seen from him during his time in Chicago. It is not improving, right? Like, that is on the head coach. That needs to be a decision that's made right away. And that play needs to be get in there and get him back to the huddle. They can celebrate after. I love the celebration. They thought they were coming off and they were going to kick an extra point. That decision needs to be made.
Well, there was some talk on social media like, oh, is it they burned the timeout because of the celebration? No, that's not what happened here. Indecisiveness of the coaching staff, because there were some coaches holding up a 2, some coaches holding up a 1. They weren't sure, but look, the math tells you what you're doing in this situation.
Very obvious.
They knew before the drive started, if we get 6, we're going to go for 2. That's something that is decided long before it gets to that point. So the fact that they were confused in the moment, again, that's on Flus.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you say, when we score here, we're going for 2.
Yes.
And then that's like in their head, right?
Yep.
And then all right, I needed to just get that off my chest because I couldn't fit them into categories. So I wanted to do it up top. So let's start with the categories. Trench tribute. We start off all of our categories with the trench tribute because, the big guys don't get enough love. I need to know from you, Lester, where are you going with this one?
I'm watching the game today, right? And it's like, I did see some nice stuff from the O-line, not a lot of it, but I'm like, okay, but I can't go to the O-line because there are still some issues there that have been happening all year. So I'm going back to defense again. And look, I've done Billings 2 weeks in a row. So I'm like, I got to go somewhere new this week. I'm going to go Montez Sweat. He had the 4 tackles. He had the sack we talked about earlier, 2 tackles for loss. I'm watching him play. And, the hustles there, obviously, with Sweat. I'm watching him set the edge in the run game, which is something you never think about it, but he does that job well. Again, good football player, creates opportunities for his teammates. This week, Montez Sweat.
Yeah, I actually had the same thing, and I didn't have a backup because, we're on the same page. I would have loved to have given it to Billings just for the interception, but again, the play didn't count officially, so I hate to take it away from him because the big guy deserves, all the love that we can give him. Dexter didn't get a sack this week. He did have a nice pressure, but he didn't get through there. Montez did get the stat, and I think he really did make that. He forced the play that should have been a big game changer, but at least he got the sack. I think we're probably under, we're not talking about Montez enough because he hasn't had those statistics. So I wanted to make sure we talked about him here. He is the focal point of the offensive game plan, right? Like they are making sure that they have their protection set around him first. And that's why some of these other guys are getting pretty good looks when they are able to pin their ears back and pass rush. It's because everything revolves around making sure that Montez is blocked up first, right? So that's an important distinction, and I think that he's getting that focus is good for the rest of the Bears defenders, but he's going to get his from time to time, and yesterday was one of those times.
Pro Football Focus does their weekly position rankings, and prior to week 3, they had the Bears defensive line like as the 4th best D line in the league, which I'm not sure if I go that high, but they've been playing pretty good football. The defense as a whole has been playing pretty good football. And Montez Sweat is the reason why that D-line has been as good as it has been.
Yeah, absolutely. 4th is a pretty high ranking. So let's think that'll probably go down after this week. But, they did allow 100+ yards to Jonathan Taylor this week.
Who's really good, by the way.
Well, Taylor's a great back. I thought it was funny. I was listening to the radio call and I thought it was funny that Thayer was talking about Jonathan Taylor like no one had ever heard of him. Like they've got a pretty good back, and Jonathan Taylor, it was just the way that like he had just discovered. Maybe he watched a Colts game for the first time since Taylor's been there because he's like, well, this guy's pretty good. They don't give him the ball enough. He's a good football player.
Well, the Colts have been pretty bad lately. I mean, they haven't been in the spotlight, I guess. So. I maybe it's for the people that don't really know.
Well, I mean, I'm not calling out Tom. Like, I mean, he's amazing. I love the guy. I actually wonder how many games they can watch, right? Because they're going to watch the Bears. They're going to go back. They're going to watch it again, and then they're off, and they're going to be looking at the next opponent. And so, they're professionals. They're watching these. They're prepping. They have to learn the next opponent. And so this may have been the first time that he went back and watched Colts game film since Taylor's been around, because I don't think the Bears have played him. I don't know how many years he's been in the league, but I don't know. So maybe I'm wrong, but like I just thought it was really funny. It's just like his tone was like, "Hey, I'm telling you guys something you might not know. Jonathan Taylor's a good back." Anyway, let's go on to our Twitter sweet tweets. So you want to talk about being on the same page? We have the same tweet thread. Different people, but my guy was responding to the guy that you have highlighted here. So why don't you start us off?
So Stephen Ruiz, who does stuff for the Ringer, one of their top NFL guys, at the Stephen Ruiz, he shares a meme. I don't understand what all these memes mean that these kids are sharing these days, but it was like a clown guy. I don't know what it was, but basically it was, this is how I feel as a Bears fan right now regarding Caleb Williams. He said it's so obvious he's going to be good, even if the results don't show it yet. And that's kind of what I get when I go back and watch the film. I mean, 3 weeks now, there are some misses. There are some things that are the timing is off, but I'm seeing the right decisions. I'm seeing him go through his reads properly. I'm seeing him work the quick game when it's there to work. His time to throw, which was everyone, oh my God, he's going to hold the ball forever. He's been one of the best. I'm not sure where he ranks now after week 3, but he's getting the ball out quick. He's running through his progressions. He's making plays on the move when he has to. The deep shots, they're not there right now with Caleb. He's been off on a few, but in college that was fine. He was good at that. It's all coming. It's just it's slowly but surely improving, and I can't help but be excited about Caleb moving forward.
Yeah, the meme, for those of you wanting to know what Lester's talking about, is the one with the it's like a party scene. It's just like a line drawing, and there's a guy in the corner who's by himself, and then there's like 2 different couples that are dancing and having fun on the dance floor, and basically the meme is like the guy in the corner is like, they don't even know that I'm like, whatever, like that I have this knowledge, or that I do this or whatever. So the point of that was basically like, everybody is like saying that this is not good, but he's clearly going to be good. And my tweet is from Bill Barnwell. Everybody knows Bill Barnwell is now at ESPN, used to be at the Grantlands back in the day. He says, he's at Bill Barnwell. He says, I watched Bears Texans way after the fact, and I couldn't believe there had been an actual discourse about Caleb during the week. He's great. Bill Barnwell is one of the most objective, detached. Like, I don't know exactly how the right word. He doesn't just say those things. He comes at it from like a numbers perspective. He is not afraid to pull punches. Like, Bears fans generally have not liked Bill Barnwell in the last few years because he's
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
pretty negative against Justin Fields. So take that for what it's worth. But he's watching these games and he's like, obviously this guy's going to be really good. And I think what Stephen Ruiz saying, like, hey, the results aren't there. I mean, some of the results are there, like, and some of them are really close. And then you have the typical rookie mistakes that are going to need to get cut down. Sure. Like, all of that is expected. And I think that when we were talking through the schedule before the year, and, as we started getting into it, what I liked about having the Titans and the Colts early in the year is that, well, one, they're out of conference, and 2, these are teams that you thought that they could maybe steal wins from as the offense was getting ramped up, right? Well, now you've got the offense ramping up. I'm not saying it's there, but it's ramping up. The defense has played really well. I mean, the few exceptions of points allowed this week, the drive was extended because of the offsides on the punt. You had the quick change of possession, with the strip sack. Those things happen, but you got to give your defense a break, right? And they got off the field. The special teams unit failed them there. They got off the field, and then Caleb gives the ball right back with the strip sack. Those things are gonna haunt you as a defense, but otherwise they had only given up 7 points midway through the third quarter, right? So this is a good defense. This is a good defense that held the Texans to a pretty low point total. They made a lot of plays against the Titans. So this is a defense that has come in and performed at the level that we hoped they would, and now you've got the offense that's starting to show that they can put things together. I mean, in another few weeks, we should be having a very different conversation.
Yeah, the run game is still an issue. I mean, that's got some problems there. The O-line, I thought they played better as far as picking up stunts this week. There are several times I'm watching it back and I'm like, the first 2 weeks that probably would have been a mistake, but they were a little better fundamentally. Their technique was a little better on some of the stunts. So, it's a work in progress, whatever the reason was. You heard Ryan Poles talk about it, pre-game, how that's a point of emphasis, right? They want to make sure they get that right. And, Flus talked about it. He was in the O-line room all week. And, so they obviously understand there's a problem there. They're getting there. The quick game will help, obviously. Caleb making these quick decisions, Caleb setting protections. There's something. He's doing all this at the line as a rookie, as 3 years into the thing. There are analysts online that like study way more than I have time for, that are just saying that he's doing things that veteran quarterbacks aren't doing. He just sees the game differently. That's a big reason why I always thought he was a slam dunk going to be the guy. And that's nothing in 3 weeks has changed my opinion of that.
No, and I think I'm seeing enough to believe that the opinion is correct, right? We were talking earlier. I don't want to blow too much, but the idea that Caleb Williams might be already the best quarterback that any of us have seen in our life, I don't think that's a crazy statement to make, right? So, I mean, I get it. There's still rookie mistakes out there. People still aren't on the same page. Some of that's just September football, guys. Some of that is not a lot of time on task in the preseason, and some of it is expected in the way the ball bounces. The pick that went off of Rome. Should he have made that throw? I don't know. I like giving Rome a chance. Like, that's who he is. He's a go up and get it guy. It bounces off. There's a guy behind. He makes a nice play. That is what it is. That's an unfortunate one. The other one, that was a bad rookie mistake.
Yeah.
That was a bad pass, right? So you say, okay, he got unlucky on one. The other one, that was well earned. Some people are going to put the sack partially on him, the strip sack. I'd be curious to see what you come up with when you look at it. Maybe he held onto it to a touch long, but that didn't feel overly long to me. That felt like he was winding up and ready to go. That felt like a breakdown in protection. I'm not even blaming Cole Kmet, for losing a rep one-on-one with or 1.5 on one. I don't know what that was. With how they sling. Was it Lewis that just kind of slingshotted the end at him?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna say that's a protection breakdown, right? So I guess the point is, as we get into Caleb's corner here, is that 33 of 52, which 52 pass attempts for a rookie quarterback in his third game, for 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He took 4 sacks for 31 yards of yardage loss, and then only had 1 rush for 8 yards. One thing, let me just point out, the idea that this guy scrambles, that some people like, oh, he's just like at USC, you just run it all the time. Like, this guy does not scramble to run. He scrambles to extend plays with his arm. That is what this guy's about. If it's there, I think he'll take it. But for the most part, he is constantly looking downfield. And some of the best plays in this game were some of these little, like, getting out of trouble and finding some extra time and then rifling a ball downfield. Now, a couple times the pocket just collapsed too much and he wasn't able to get it off. But overall, those are, I mean, again, I understand it's a loss. 363 yards. We haven't seen that in a long time. And if this is kind of the thing that you can expect, where, hey, if you've got to be able to come back, he has that ability. Like, he can sling it around the yard and move the ball down the field. And once you get to the point where he can convert more of those into touchdowns, now you're cooking.
Yeah, I mean, he set the Bears rookie record for passing yards in a game, which is also the 11th most all time in franchise history, which, of course, we're talking about not a lot of great quarterbacks there, but still, 3 games in, he's already setting passing records for the franchise, which is phenomenal. The one thing they talk about on the broadcast, how like a coverage sack. Oh, that's a coverage sack there. Fans hear that and their first thought is, then it's on the quarterback. Then it's his problem. Well, you can't just chuck it out of bounds all the time. You have to be out of the tackle box. And that's something that think it's kind of lost when they don't really have time to explain it all, that you can't just do that. You can try and just kind of throw it out of bounds, but you got to make sure there's a guy close enough. Because we saw, I think it was early first week or second week, he kind of did that, and he got the intentional grounding penalty because, he was throwing it away to avoid a sack. And if that's what you're doing, and there's not a viable receiver close enough to be able to catch it, they're going to flag that. So sometimes a quarterback, if there's nothing there, there's not an escape outlet, you just got to eat the sack, and that's what happens.
Yeah, one of those things that Rodgers, I hate to do this, give Aaron Rodgers too much credit, but one of the things that made Rodgers so great was that he knew when to just chuck the ball out of bounds. And he would eat sacks from time to time too, because he didn't want to put the ball in harm's way. And you say, well, Caleb threw 2 interceptions, so how can you possibly say that? Yeah, he's a rookie. He's still going to make those mistakes. He was late on that throw. I'm not, one mistake I'm not worried about. He put the ball up 52 times, but Rodgers was his model. That's who he liked to watch. And he liked to watch Stafford, right? So you see part of those things in his game. And one of the things that I think he's doing already that I think is impressive, that I don't think really anybody's talking about, is that he is willing to just throw the ball out of bounds when it's not there. And I saw that a few times yesterday, where he was willing to just say, nope, I don't have it, and I'm chucking it out of bounds. Or I'm gonna put it in the spot that only my guy maybe can get, but I'm not putting it anywhere close to harm's way. He had a few of those. Now, those are incompletions, right? Oh, his completion percentage isn't what I wanted to. I'm going to take the smart play.
Yeah.
Like, again, he's missing a couple. He's making a couple dangerous throws, like all those things, but there's enough like really smart decision making in his game already that I think it's really impressive. And I'm not sure that we're actually giving him enough credit for it, to be quite honest with you. I think because too many people are box score scouting and are frustrated with the end result of the team, which I understand. And we'll certainly get there, but also we want to make sure that we see this progress every week.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers, I mean, he's due for what, a 700-yard game next week against the Rams?
That's what I said.
Yeah, I saw your tweet. Yeah.
I mean, that's just math.
Yeah.
Yeah, with this growth rate that he's had over the 3 games, I mean, we're going to at least be over 500 yards next week. That's going to be great, because I'm going to be there. Well, speaking of numbers and how math works, we've got our stat of the week, caught up in a numbers game. I have a Caleb stat, so I might as well just
take it.
Go with that. So Caleb is 48 yards behind the pace for the franchise record. So the current franchise record is 38-38, and he is only 48 yards behind that pace. He's also essentially 2 full games ahead of the rookie record, the Mitchell Trubisky rookie record, with where he's at now. So this one big volume game that he was able to have really caught him back up from the initial 93-yarder that he had. He gets the extra game over Eric Kramer. So, there is that, because I'm calculating this off of 17 games and not 16 like Kramer had. But I'm not willing to give up that's in play. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people were already bailing on that, and after the slow start, but I'm not. Like, I'm not willing to bail on the idea that he can certainly set the rookie record. Hopefully he's setting that midway through the year. But I'm not willing to say that he can't go after the franchise marks here. We've got a lot of football left, and we're seeing this progress. I don't see why he can't stay on that pace.
The rookie marks are no brainer. I mean, that's come on, that's ridiculously low for the franchise. I think those are definitely going to happen at some point. But yeah, I mean, the Kramer numbers, those are within reach for a average season. I mean, we're not talking about ridiculous stuff here. I mean, and like I said, I did look at those numbers too. I'm like, yeah, he's there. I mean, I'm not expecting 363 each week, but if he's just putting up a couple hundred yards here, a couple hundred yards there, he may pop another big game here on occasion. He's going to be right in play. I predicted earlier in the year about 3,600 yards. That's where I saw the sweet spot for him, which puts him well in front of the rookie records. just a touch shy of those Eric Kramer records. But I mean, if things are clicking, and he seems to have a nice rapport with Adunze, him and DJ Moore have a little thing going here. He's discovered, hey, I got this giant tight end I can hit over the middle now. I mean, these things are him learning how to play as an NFL quarterback, and Shane Waldron learning how to call a game for his rookie quarterback. I think the offense is going to keep getting better and better.
Well, he kept trying to hit the giant tight end that was out there in the first week, but it was just the guy that was wearing 14 instead of 85.
Yeah,
and
nice.
Now they've got 85 out there a little bit more, and he's making some plays. So what about you? What's your number?
My number, I got to go a little negative. We've been kind of positive. 4.6. That is DeAndre Swift's yards per carry in his career before this year in Chicago. This year through 3 games, 1.8 yards per carry. What happened to DeAndre Swift? Because, I mean, he was never an elite runner, but he seems to have bursts when he runs. He's not breaking tackles, obviously. The holes aren't always there for him. But I wasn't a huge fan of the signing when it happened. I thought it was a bit pricey for a guy like that. But you kind of saw how he would fit in, how he would help a rookie quarterback with all the things he can do for an offense. And he's been horrible this season.
So there's a couple things going through my mind. One, I certainly didn't like the signing because, you kind of go through this like, oh, you don't pay a running back. And then you find out like, hey, they were in on Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that would have been fun though.
Okay. Like Saquon Barkley is a really good player. That's not the type of player that comes open very often. I don't love the idea of putting a ton of money out there, but I mean, Saquon Barkley, like that's a guy. Right. And then they don't get him. He signs with the Eagles, and then they get Swift for quite a bit of money. And then if you watched the Hard Knocks with the Giants, the offseason Hard Knocks, they actually talked about the different running backs that were out there, and they talked about Swift, and they said like this is a guy that needs to be in a committee.
Yeah. Like
he's not a guy that is a feature back. And I think that the Bears signed him to be a feature back. And I don't want to be a meme of myself here, being kind of the standard, the flag bearer for Juice Herbert.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's your runner. Like that's the most efficient, one of the most efficient runners of the football in the entire National Football League. He's not going to take a lot of negative runs, right? Like we talked about that last week. Like one of the great things about Khalil Herbert that no one talks about is that he's going to make that first guy miss. And so he's not going to have tackles for loss. Like very often, like he's going to fall forward. He's going to get positive yardage. And he has that ability to break off explosive runs. I know the knock on him is that he can't pass block. Yes, I agree. He's a bad pass blocker, but you don't have to use the running back in pass blocking pro like that. Like you can use other things to pass out of there, and he's not any more predictive of a run than any other back that the Bears have had or have. Like that argument doesn't work for me. And so like I think the answer is still on the roster. Like you can just give more of the carries to Khalil Herbert, and you can still use DeAndre Swift as the other back who is really good out of the backfield in terms of in the passing game. He's not a very good pass blocker either, by the way. Like, I'm not sure that he's very good at that. And so I think that there's a lot of love right now for Roschon. I mean, I need to see more from Roschon. I know he's a little bit more well-rounded, but I don't know that he does anything particularly well. He's not plus in anything. He just seems like a kind of a well-rounded guy. And that's good and that's useful. But I want to see a guy that can kind of take over a game, like, have big plays that really influence a game. And to me, we're not seeing enough of Khalil Herbert. I feel like we're seeing a little bit too much of DeAndre Swift. And so I'm curious if Waldron is going to reconfigure the carry split here, because it is not reflective of the value that these guys have provided thus far.
It seems to be coming down here through a few weeks, right? I think he's starting to realize what's going on here. Again, for whatever reason, Swift's not getting it done. I don't understand, because he looks quick when he has the ball in his hands. He's just getting hit quickly. He's not a powerful runner by any means. He's never been, big with yards after contact, but there's something going on here with Swift, and I'm with you, man. I'm not sure Herbert's going to be the guy because they seem to want Roshan. Roshan was the guy this last week. He was the guy that was spelling him. Herbert had a couple carries. Roshan had, I think, like 7 or 8. Like you said, Roshan's a little more all around of a player, but he's not explosive. I haven't seen that part in his game yet. Maybe he's a more powerful runner, which is fine. He's a decisive runner, which is Herbert is as well. But I think Herbert, I would love to see Herbert get 15 carries a game. I want to see what happens with Herbert doing that in the offense because, through some bad Bears teams the last few years, Herbert's been productive. Now, part of that is Justin Fields was also a running threat. I'm sure that had something to do with it. But still, there's ways to kind of get creative. There's ways to kind of do some read option stuff. There's some play action stuff, some movement stuff, some motion stuff you can do, kind of give a defense something else to think about. And let's get Herbert the rock.
Yeah, we might be the number one Khalil Herbert podcast. I think
sure.
it could be it. But hey, before we take our break, we want to remind everybody about our partnership here with Underdog Fantasy, just starting up last week. And again, I am available for consultation, but because I live in Iowa, I cannot actually play. But I'm Lester's consultant, and I can be other people's consultant too if you want free advice. But just remember, that's what it's worth.
Yeah, follow him on Twitter at GridironBorn for all your wagering needs. So
by the way, Anthony Richardson under pass total was my like pick, my prop bet pick, which definitely hit. Now I may have actually flipped it on my betting app and discovered that this morning, which is why you do not bet before coffee. But so that's just a little public service announcement to all of you. Don't bet before coffee.
Yeah. So let's get into this. It is the greatest time of year again. Football is back, and it's here to stay till February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Signing up with Underdog is smooth and easy. I especially like using their mobile app. Last week I did say check their stats for Caleb Williams because I thought he was going to have a huge game. Boom, huge game. I'm calling again this week. So check those stats on Underdog for what Caleb is. I think he's going to go higher again. I'm expecting another big game here. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward. And signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with our promo code CITY, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy. Our promo code again is CITY to claim your new customer special of a free pick, and your deposit order must be 18 and older. 21 plus Massachusetts, Arizona, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, and present in the states where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org in Arizona. 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Whew.
Whoa, that's a lot of numbers.
Take a break.
You should they should sponsor Caught Up in a Numbers Game because that's a lot of numbers. All right, on the other side of this, we'll get into everybody's favorite segment, another number, 3 Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester, 3 Bears. Let's get into this thing. I think there's actually a number of candidates here for the hot bowl of porridge, but I'm curious where you went. Where'd you go?
I'm trying to go back to the old school. Make it a guy that does something we were not expecting out of him. So I'm going to go DeAndre Carter, who has been a pretty bigger part of this offense than anyone expected. I hear a lot of people online, why are we throwing the ball to DeAndre Carter? Well, he's open. What do you want? He's getting open. He's drawing flags because he's so open. People are kind of converging on him and getting those penalties. 3 catches, 22 yards this week. He had that real nice effort to get a first down there when he kind of caught that little bit of a bubble screen there. No one expected this out of him, but he has had some moments in the NFL. He's a solid kick and punt returner, which is what we've seen here, during his time in Chicago. So until Keenan Allen comes back, he's your number 3 receiver, and he's solid.
He's a pro.
He's a pro.
Right? He's a pro. Man, he probably would have been the number 1 on this team a few years ago, right?
Man. the Tanner Gentry era, yeah, he would
Man,
be your number
no,
one
I
guy.
honestly didn't know much about him. And he's come in, solidified the return spots, and then been able to be a target on offense. Are they going to him a little too much? Probably.
Yeah.
But he's been pretty solid and playing a role, like you said, for Keenan Allen until Keenan Allen gets back. Obviously, everybody will be happy when Keenan's back and healthy. That gives the Bears a real high end route runner it's going to give Caleb another really quality target. But I like that. I like that because it's come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Not even on our radar that he was going to play any offensive snaps, let alone that he was going to be pretty decent in the return game. For me, it's Rome Odunze. So talk about a Sunday morning prediction I put out before the game. I said, F it. I'm putting Rome in my fantasy lineup. Let's do this thing. And he goes off, man. He gets over his first 100-yard game, gets his first touchdown. Have to feel good about both of those things because it just hadn't quite been there yet. I got a text from one of our guys. I won't out him, but one of our guys, and he's like, "Is it too early to start panicking about Rome?" And I said, "Yeah, it is way too early.
Yeah.
It's like Juwan Taylor off the snap early. Like you are way too early, my friend." And I think that we expect these guys to be great out of the gate because they're top 10 picks, right? Like Caleb's number 1 overall. Rome's a top 10 pick. And yeah, you expect them to produce, but you got to remember these guys are rookies. They're still figuring things out. They're figuring things out together. That's this time on task. Like that should be like the quote that we continue to come back to. There just needs to be more time together. And you're seeing it. Like these guys are really close. They're just really close on a lot of this stuff. And you start to see it convert a little bit more. But for me, I have to give my guy Rome the hot bowl porridge this week.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how this offense looks when Caleb and Rome are on the same page. We saw it. I think it was week 1. He kind of went down the sideline when a comeback should have happened. This last game, we saw him he flattened off his route when Caleb thought a post was coming. So there's these little things you're seeing, and not just with Rome, but with the whole receiving core where you're like, man, once they get on the same page, once they're seeing the game, through the same eyes, once they see what's happening here, it's going to click and it's going to be beautiful.
That's what I keep seeing, right? Like it just seems so close.
It does.
And I think every week you're going to see it just get a little closer, and then it's just going to and by that point it's going to click, but and you're going to see more points. But man, well, I don't want to draw the straight line, but this could be to the moon, my friend.
It's scary because Bears fans, we've always said this. Like we've been through this. Oh man, Mitch Trubisky's close, right? Justin Fields is close. You know what I mean? We've seen this happen a few times, but it's different. There's something different this time because again, you go back and you watch what he's doing on film, and you're like, man, he's going through his progressions quick. He's seeing the first read there, and he's firing the ball out now. He's making the right reads. And then you're seeing this other thing where you're like, man, I don't remember a lot of times where past quarterbacks in the Bears have had option routes where they just were making the wrong decision. I mean, that tells me that those weren't built into the playbook a lot. Caleb's got all this built in. I think he's running the full playbook.
Yeah,
it's not like the full playbook, but he's so far ahead of where anyone thought he'd be at this point. The Bears just lost, and I'm freaking excited. It's just such a weird place to be as a Bears fan.
I 100% agree. I don't think it's crazy at all. I mean, maybe we'll look foolish. I get that there's a possibility that the naysayers out there could be right. I understand. There's a parallel universe, out there, whatever. I've watched a lot of football. You've watched a lot of football. It just seems close. And it just keeps kind of tightening up every week. And I just think you're going to see something big happen here over the next 3 weeks. They've got a good runway for this, to be completely honest. All right, cold bowl of porridge, other side of this. More than a few opportunities to hand out cold bowls. What you got?
This hurts because I like him as a player. Mercedes Lewis, old school. He's I think he's your age, right? I mean,
emphasis on old. Yeah.
I mean,
I think he might be a year younger, but yeah, he's up there. He's past 40, right?
I love the story. I love that he's hanging on. He's still doing his thing, but it wasn't the best game. This now 2 weeks in a row, he had a false start in the game. You can't have that. You're just in there to come in there and block and hit some guys, and you're out there false start, and you can't have that. We touched on it earlier, the Cole Kmet sack for the Liatau. I can't even say his name. Can you say his name?
Latu.
I knew you'd have it because we expected the Bears could draft him. So Latu, when you're watching it live, you're like, what is Cole Kmet doing there? First off, don't put your big, or you don't put your tight end on a big. I mean, the defensive end, Latu is a big. Now, Kmet may have size on him, but that's not Kmet's job. Kmet is not on the island left tackle. That's not his job.
Right.
So I hated that he was out there. But then you watch the film and you're like, oh, so he was just setting up there. Lewis kind of popped him, like you said, pushed him around the edge, and that's kind of why Kmet got the block slipped off him. And look, why was Lewis doing that? I don't know why. He's looking for work. He wanted to hit a guy. Maybe he just wanted to hit someone. That's fine. But Lewis is there to take on the nickel. The nickel was kind of was hanging there. That was 7-man protection. That was the guy that he had to protect in case he came. He didn't come. Lewis had nothing to do. So we hit a guy and ended up, pushing Latu around the edge. So I think Lewis will be fine this season, but it kind of makes you wonder, like, could there have been a better spot for that roster spot than a guy that's just hanging on? And again, it pains me to say it because I'm a fan. I like what he does. I like what he's done throughout his career, but 2 weeks, 2 false start penalties.
Yeah, he's had a rough start to his season, and he's old school, emphasis on old. Yeah, he's over 40, so that's old. I mean, good for him for being able to get his body through an NFL season, but geez, that's not a good start for him, and it feels like you'd cut a lot of players for those mental mistakes, and so he's obviously bringing some level of leadership that people respect, but he's got to bring it on the field too. I think there's a couple of ways to go here. I'm just gonna say Torrey Taylor did not have a good game punting. I haven't run the numbers yet, but those were pretty rough. And the one good punt, even though it was returned, so it actually kind of wasn't a very good punt either. He didn't have a very good game. Certainly his worst game so far. I would say Cold Bowl goes to some of the miscommunication in the secondary. Explosive plays that were allowed, they just seemed like mental breakdowns. They weren't beat like on like a one-on-one route or anything like that. They were wide open, and so those mental breakdowns, I think, deserve it. I think at least a cold cup of porridge needs to go to Daniel Hardy. Mental lapse of jumping off sides. I don't care if the center bobbed his head. You can't do that when it's
watch the ball, right?
Yep, you watch the ball. It's 4th and 2. Like you cost. That was the turning point of the game to me. It was 7-3. Bears are going to get the ball back. You put the defense back on the field. They're gassed. They get scored on. It's 14-3. The game's pretty much over at that point. I know there was plenty of time left, but just that felt like too much at that point. Other people say it was the strip sack, and that's fair too. But I think that one was tough. So I would give the Cold Bowl there. And then for me though, the Gold Cup. Just a little one, just one mistake, but that was a tough play. And then the Cold Bowl for me goes to Shane Waldron. We talked about it, throughout the show, but the number of play calls where he is asking something of a player that you can't ask. You can't ask that of Cole Kmet. You can't ask that of DeAndre Carter to block a defensive end on a goal line run play. You can't ask some of these, like he was asking Coleman, and it's not him, but he's the offensive coordinator. He owns it. So maybe it's Morgan, but asking Sheldon to reach block at the point of attack on a outside shade as a center, like that's a Jason Kelsey block. Like that's a top 3 center. Creed Humphrey can make that block, but most centers can't, and certainly Coleman Shelton can't. So you're putting him in a position where he is going to fail, and then Bears fans are going to see that and they're going to be like, he sucks. Yeah, that's also an impossible assignment for most of those guys. So I just, even the like little bit of time that I spent going back and watching it again, the number of times I'm like, he is not putting those guys in a position where they can make easy blocks, or they can make an easy throw. Like there's so many just difficult throws where they're not scheming guys open. And so I'm not saying I'm worried, but this is what we talked about when you keep Eberflus and then you go into the market and you have to hire an offensive coordinator, this is about as good as they could have done. We have said that. He's a professional. I think it will get better, but there has been the number of just personnel usage, uh, the assignments that they're asking some of these guys where it just seems blind. Like, why are you asking this guy to do that job? Um, they're stacking up, and they're stacking up
Yeah.
in an alarming way. Now, there's a lot of football left, so hopefully he'll adapt, he'll get better. But this is what you get when you have a fixed ceiling offensive coordinator like Shane Waldron.
Well, we've seen some of the adaptation already. I mean, we saw early first week one, a lot of Gerald Everett, not much Cole Kmet. That's kind of changed. We saw a lot of DeAndre Swift in this last week. A lot of that's starting to change. So we're seeing him adapt on the fly, So to me, it feels like Shane Waldron's feeling things out. He's trying to figure, okay, what can I trust my rookie to do? And I think he's going to find out really quick. It's going to be pretty much whatever he wants, because Caleb seems to have, like I said, he has a good control of the line in front of him. He understands the pass pro. He's getting a set properly. He understands he's moving guys around. I mean, he's getting his offense set, pre-snap quite a bit. There are times when I kind of see him and you're like, he's making these quick plays and you're like, that doesn't happen very often. There's not a lot of times in Bears history where like this guy's moving this back here because he wants to make sure he's in a better spot to pick up the blitz here. And it's like, he has control over that. So I think Shane Waldron is trying to figure out what he can do. And eventually he's going to realize whatever the hell I want, now let's just kind of work on the substitutions better, make sure I have my playmakers in at the right time. Don't ask, like you said, don't ask guys to do things they can't do. And you would hope that he would have figured this out in preseason and then in training camp. But that this is part of the game, and I think that it will get better.
But he deserves the cold bowl this week. So let's move on to Just Right. Who did you have for your Just Right this week?
I talked about it earlier. The way they're picking up stunts this week was much better. So I wanted to make sure I had a chance to talk about that. Braxton Jones, had a pretty good game. I don't think he gave him any sacks. I haven't really dug too deep into it, but I kind of, when I rewatched it, a couple pressures here and there, but, fundamentally sound in the run game. His pass sets are pretty good, and those stunts. The stunts are the big thing for me because it's been so bad, these last few weeks. And same with Darnell Wright. I want to shout him out too. The tackles. That's usually who can miss them. They had a much better game this week. There wasn't a lot of stunts getting missed on the inside either. So, and the Colts saw that film and they tried throwing some stunts at the Bears, and the Bears were ready for most of those. So Braxton Jones did his job this week.
I like that. I mean, I do think the tackles deserve a little bit more love because there's been so much focus on the negative of the interior offensive line. I saw some people say they thought, I think our guy Quentin Crisco said that he thought Tevin Jenkins had a good game. So I did see Tevin get blown up once, but again, pass pro's not his strong side. Yeah. For me, he had to have hated dropping back 56 times in pass pro. Jeez, poor Tevin. For me, Just Right, I think you could give it to Caleb. And people are, oh, you should be at the hot bowl. I'm expecting this. Because I'm getting the negative plays that I expect a rookie to have. I'm getting some of the wow moments that I expect this guy to be able to give us. I'm expecting some of these just ripped throws over the middle. I don't know, man. I just have not seen this in navy and orange. It's great. Cutler had an amazing arm.
Yeah.
And he could rip some throws, but just he's kind of got it all. And I mean, you could take pieces of all of these past Bears quarterbacks, try to put them together. I'm not even sure you get this. This, if you're not excited yet, I don't know what to tell you. I'm really excited about this young man. But for me, I'm gonna actually give it to Edmonds. I think that I don't know what happened, but a lot of really dumped on Tremaine Edmonds last year. They really didn't like him.
The money.
We didn't do that on this show.
Yeah.
I don't believe. Someone maybe can pull up a clip and I'm talking bad about him or something. I don't remember that. He was put in a position where he's going to be doing more of the coverage work, and Edwards is going to be doing more of the run fit work, right? And so from the stats perspective, our guy TJ Edwards is kind of filling the stat sheet because he's moving forwards on most of the plays, whereas Edmonds has to kind of run backwards a little bit. And some in linebackers being targeted in coverage, there's always going to be a mismatch. But he makes plays, and he made a play here. I know it was just it's a Sanborn making the play and tipping the ball up in the air, but he was on the other side of that. I just think that he's not the value of an off-ball linebacker dollars, and maybe we're missing Roquan because Roquan's a really good player, and we missed the quality of the player there. But Edmonds is a good football player, and I don't think that I don't know that he deserved all of the negatives that came with him last year, but I think he's getting a little bit more positive press this year, and I think he's playing at a level that I expect him to.
I mean, he's a former Pro Bowler. I mean, he has this kind of talent level. I mean, he was drafted at 19 years old, so he's still a very young player. I mean, his body is not broken down. He missed a few games last year, and so he's still in good shape. He still moves well. He's like you said, he's a good football player. Last year was his first year in this new scheme. A lot of coverage responsibilities. He's good. I mean, he is. He's a reason why Fluke's able to run his defense like he wants to. He wanted that big, long middle linebacker that's rangy. He kind of do a little bit of everything for you. We've seen him blitz. He has a sack this year. We've seen him with the interception. So good all around football player. And again, good pick for this week for the just right.
Well, that's what we got. That's the show. Do you have anything final before we get out of here?
No, it's just weird being so excited after the loss. I mean, this is kind of how it was that big Justin Fields year, right? When they were just losing every week, but you kind of saw things like, man, I see how this could happen if it works out right. It didn't work out right, but it just feels different this year. It's just an exciting time, and you just watch them play, and it's like, the haters are still there. I mean, of course, if you're on social media, you're going to see them. If you listen to the Score, ESPN 1000, the callers are still. So some of them are just going to be crabby. They're in our comment section at the site. They're still there. You're never going to stop it. Even with a game as big as this, people are still mad about it. Oh yeah, well, he threw it 50 sometimes. Of course he throws so many yards. Okay. I mean, if that's if you want to go through life that way, that's fine. Do your thing. I mean, I try to be balanced as much as possible, but man, he's a fun player to watch.
Literally my response to all the people in my comments were I just posted the yardage total. I said it's his first 300-yard game. That's all I was doing. I was just trying to put it out there. And I even said, I get it's a bit hollow because it's in a loss, whatever. And then all these people are saying that. And my response to them was like, okay, cool. And then one, well, he turned the ball over 3 times. And I was like, is it in your experience, do they zero out the stats when the quarterback turns the ball over? Is that what happens? No, the stats stand, people. It is what it is. I'm excited. You're excited. I think that it's going to be fun to continue to watch the progression here. We'll be here again every Monday at 6:00 Central Time on YouTube if you want to join us. And we're gonna continue to cover this this young football team that has a lot going for it, has some question marks, and we'll see where this thing goes. And that's all you can ask for is an entertaining season, right? So we'll stick around a little bit for post-game Q&A, but until next time, bear down.
There's a double header tonight from Monday Night Football. There's
I know everybody's watching football, which they should.
I can't stand the 2 games on Monday nights. I like one game alone on Monday Night Football. That's how it's always been. I'm sure they get pretty good ratings for it, but this one's not even staggered. They're like a half an hour apart. It's like, what's the point?
You got to pick one.
Right?
You got to pick one. Yeah, it's not really a doubleheader if they're both on at the same time.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Chris, I don't know. If Richardson doesn't suck, well, I mean, okay, but why did he suck? Did they force him into that? Did they take advantage of the opportunities that they were given? What's the sure, if Peyton Manning played for the Colts, they would have they would have, yeah, but that's not who played, right?
Yeah.
I think you got to give him some credit. I mean, really, it was 7-3. 7-3. They gave the ball back to the offense in the middle of the third quarter. I don't know. I have a hard time saying that they're not playing well. They played well against the Texans. They played well against the Titans. I think this defense is playing well.
There were some coverage lapses, the big pass to Pierce, and then there was another one, I think, to the reserve tight end on the sideline.
Yeah,
But,
we called that out, but
those are, some of those are schemed open, like the way they kind of have guys running out to clear out the zone, and then they bring the guy behind it. So, but yeah, like Chris was saying there, yeah, Richardson overthrowing players, but who knows? I mean, it's the what if game goes both ways. You still got to make that pass perfectly. And if it's perfectly on the money, maybe the Bears are there to kind of, tip it or get in the way. So it's hard to tell when you're going to play that game. I love it. Dented fender, give Billings the ball. That would be beautiful.
I mean, I'm not going to give him the ball, but I could put him back there, it'd just be funny. Cause that's a distraction,
Yeah.
I would say the other comment here, I don't think it was that bad, but one, Taylor's a good player. Two, they have a really good offensive line. That's a mismatch. Like the Bears aren't going to be that's a mismatch for the Colts. I'm actually surprised they didn't do more of it, to be fair.
Jonathan Taylor is such a good runner. I mean, like Tom Thayer was saying, if you haven't really watched much Colts, watch him. I mean, he's very patient. I mean, there are a few runs where he kind of had it, and he hesitated at the right time to set things up in front of him, and he just kind of popped out and got a bunch of yards. So he's a really good
naming running backs, and he's not one of the first 5 names that comes out of your mouth. You're probably wrong. I think he's a top 5 guy. So that is what it is. He's good. They built their offensive line pretty well.
When Nelson's a stud, yeah.
Nelson's, Nelson had like that weird stretch where he kind of looked like garbage. So I assume that he had an injury that he wasn't really disclosing, which happens to linemen, and he's bad now. Like, yeah, he just forgot how to play football, and it's like he's got something going on. But generally, that guy's been awesome, awesome. So yeah, you can, you get a couple guys that can do that. You can run and a good runner. You can definitely influence a football game. But all right, well, I think everybody's off watching Monday Night Football. So
let's go watch the game.
We'll cut it short. I need to go get dinner anyway. So
nice.
We'll next week I'm going to be at the game. So I'm going to be watching it live, and so hopefully I can bring back a little bit of extra fun stories from that. But we'll be right back here next week at 6 to talk about the game.
What's your record going to see games live? I know people keep track of that kind of stuff. Do you see more wins and losses? Or
geez, I'm trying to do the math in my head. Of the games that I can immediately think of, so I saw the Bears come back in Kansas City with the Cutler kind of drops the ball, drops the snap and then throws it to Forte on the corner. I was at that game. So that was a win. I was at the Alshon Jeffrey crazy game up in Minneapolis. But it was the Tressman tries to kick a field goal on second down or whatever that was. And a long field goal, and Gold missed it and they end up losing. That was the dumbest thing in the world. And then I was at took number 1 Bears fan to the night game against the Commanders that they lost. And then I was at Fields' first home start against the Lions, which they won. So I can think of those off the top of my head, which is 2-2. I've been to a lot of other games. Not a lot. I've been to a few other games, but just non-Bears games too. So I don't go to a lot. It's expensive. It takes a lot for me to get out there. But I wanted to be in a Caleb first, I was hoping to get the first game, but the first month. So hopefully he's got it going, got a rhythm, and hopefully we can see some fireworks. Plus the Rams beat up.
You'll be there for Caleb's first 400-yard game. So
there we go.
Good, yeah.
There we go. Rome's first, 2-touchdown game. I don't know. Give me something. Give me something
nice.
here.
Yeah, that'll work. I like it.
All right, good stuff. Well, we'll see you next week, guys. Appreciate you.